On a calm night over the Pacific, a small glowing sphere drifted beside a Navy ship, moving with a strange ease that made trained eyes hesitate. What was it doing there, and why did it seem to know the ship was watching? The sighting was tied to the USS Omaha, a warship operating in the Pacific in 2019, where routine surveillance suddenly became something far less ordinary. In that stretch of ocean, the line between radar contact and impossible shape grew very thin. This case matters because it sits at the meeting point of military procedure, modern sensor technology, and a visual report that still refuses to settle down neatly. A single object, seen briefly, can become a lasting puzzle when every detail seems to pull in a different direction. The first accounts described a sphere gliding near the ship before dropping away toward the water, as if it were testing the boundary between air and sea. That movement alone was enough to make the encounter feel unlike a simple light in the sky. What followed was not a dramatic chase, but a careful attempt to understand what the crew had actually seen. In cases like this, the mystery grows not from noise, but from the precision of people trying to describe the same fleeting thing. The object was reportedly tracked by ship systems and observed visually, a combination that gives the case its staying power. When instruments and human eyes appear to point in the same direction, the question becomes harder to dismiss. Supporters of the case focus on the sphere itself, because the shape was simple, bright, and strangely self-contained. It did not look like a plane, a helicopter, or the usual clutter of the night sky. That simplicity is part of the problem. A small orb can be easy to misread at a distance, yet it can also be exactly the kind of form that leaves witnesses with no familiar category to place it in. The reported motion added another layer of unease, because the sphere did not behave like a drifting balloon or a steady aircraft light. It seemed to shift position in a way that made the surrounding darkness feel active, almost responsive. Then came the detail many people remember most clearly. The object appeared to descend toward the sea and vanish from easy sight. Whether it splashed, submerged, or simply slipped beyond view remains one of the central uncertainties. That ambiguity matters, because a light disappearing is not the same as an object being explained. The difference between a visual impression and a physical event is where many maritime mysteries begin to widen. The USS Omaha case gained attention after the footage and reports began circulating beyond the ship itself, turning a brief encounter into a public question. Once that happened, every frame became a clue people wanted to inspect again. In the strongest reading, the encounter suggests something small, controlled, and capable of moving in ways that defied easy identification. That is exactly why the case continues to sit uneasily between ordinary misidentification and something genuinely unusual. The best-known images show only a limited moment, but limited moments can be powerful when they capture motion no one expected. A single bright sphere over open water is simple to look at and surprisingly hard to explain well. Skeptics question whether the object may have been something mundane seen under difficult conditions, such as a drone, a distant aircraft, or an optical artifact. At sea, distance, darkness, and glare can turn familiar things into something oddly unfamiliar. That explanation deserves respect, because the ocean is full of deceptive reflections and the human eye is not built for perfect night identification. Yet the case remains interesting precisely because the witnesses were not casual stargazers. The crew was operating in a military environment where strange lights are not automatically treated as extraordinary. That makes the reported hesitation more compelling, since trained observers tend to rule out the obvious first. Another reason the story lingers is the way it connects to a broader wave of Navy encounters from the same era. The Omaha sphere did not arrive in a vacuum. It appeared inside a larger conversation about unexplained aerial activity near military assets. But even without the wider context, the core event stands on its own. A small object, a dark sea, and a crew trying to make sense of something that moved with unsettling confidence. That combination is what keeps the case alive. What makes the footage so compelling is not spectacle, but restraint. The object does not explode into drama. It simply appears, shifts, and leaves behind a question that ordinary language struggles to hold. If the sphere was a drone, then its apparent behavior would need to fit a very unusual pattern near a warship at sea. If it was an aircraft light, the motion and disappearance would need a different explanation still. If it was something natural or optical, the conditions would have had to align just right to produce a remarkably convincing illusion. That possibility is real, but it does not erase the fact that the scene was experienced as something distinctly out of place. And if the object was genuinely unknown, then the encounter becomes part of a much larger pattern of maritime mysteries that seem to prefer the edges of human observation. The sea has always been a place where certainty arrives late, if at all. The unanswered questions are frustratingly specific. How close was the object? How long was it visible? And what exactly did the sensors record before the contact was lost? Those details matter because they separate a passing curiosity from a case that might reveal something deeper about how these events are detected, interpreted, and remembered. In the absence of full clarity, every fragment carries extra weight. The sphere also raises a broader question that has followed many modern sightings. Why do so many reports describe objects that seem aware of observation, yet leave almost no physical trace behind? That tension is part of the enduring fascination. For believers, the Omaha footage feels like a rare glimpse of something intelligent operating just beyond the edge of certainty. For others, it is a reminder that perception at sea can be slippery, even for professionals. Both readings leave something unresolved, which may be why the case continues to travel so widely. It is not only the object itself, but the feeling that a brief encounter exposed a larger unknown. The most compelling mysteries are often small enough to fit inside a few seconds of footage, yet large enough to outlast years of explanation. The USS Omaha sphere has exactly that quality. Its legacy is not a final answer, but a record of trained observers meeting something they could not immediately classify. That is where the case still breathes, in the narrow space between certainty and dismissal. Maybe the sphere was a trick of distance, a device, or a brief sensor and light anomaly. Or maybe it was a genuine unknown, momentarily crossing the path of a Navy ship and leaving only a fragment of evidence behind. Either way, the USS Omaha encounter reminds us that some of the most intriguing modern mysteries are not loud or theatrical. They are quiet, brief, and just strange enough to make the sea feel deeper than before.